see Nebraska win football games without that much enthusiasm. It's a real pleasure to be here with all of my fellow Nebraskans. It was 1930, 85 years ago, when I had the luckiest day of my life, when I was born in the United States. It was about 2 miles from here, and so I haven't made much progress since. But it was a blessing. I was born right there before the Depression started. The Dow Jones average was 250 on the day I was born, and it went down to 42 within 2 years. It was not a great start, but this country has been not only the greatest country on earth, it's been the greatest economic machine on earth. Today, the United States has $56,000 per capita of GDP, goods and services, $56,000. That's 6 times what it was when I was born. One person's lifetime, already the leading company in the world, or country in the world in 1930, and yet 6 for 1 to $56,000 today, and that's in real terms. And if you told my parents at the hospital back in 1930 that their son would be living in a country where the income or the GDP per capita increased 6-fold, they would have said everybody in that country is going to have to be doing wonderfully. You can't have 6 times as much in the way of goods and services in the country without everyone participating. And they would have been wrong. What has happened is that despite this incredible bounty, millions and millions and millions of Americans have been left behind. I went this morning to the internet and got some statistics, and you can get these same statistics. The Internal Revenue Service publishes, they've been doing it since 1992, they publish some figures from the income tax returns of the 400 Americans that have the highest income. And you can go to the internet and do the same thing. Put 400 highest incomes, IRS, and it'll pop up. So you can check my numbers. And that's why I wrote them down here. I don't want you to catch me on unawares. In 1992, those 400 people, 400 top incomes reported to the IRS, they had an average income of $46.8 million. That's per person. The total for the 400 was $18 billion. Now fast forward 20 years to 2012. That's the most recent year that we have numbers for. They come out a couple of years late. What do you think that 46.8 million had turned into in terms of average income for the top 400? I'll give you the number, 335.7 million. The income of the top 400, 7 times what it was 20 years ago. Now I hope all of you are making 7 times what you were 20 years ago, but you would really be the exceptions. You know, I'm going to go to lunch in a little while, and the people that are cooking the food and the waitress that's serving me the food and whoever may park my car, whatever it may be, you know, not 7 for 1, not remotely like it. Now that's just half of the good news for these 400. Their average tax rate in 1992, and you can throw in payroll taxes because they don't really pay much of them. I don't pay much. If you have a lot of income, you don't pay much in payroll taxes. Their average tax rate was 26.3%. If you go forward to 1992, this group who has had their income increase 7-fold to 335 million, but their tax rate, instead of being 26.3%, has fallen to 16.7%. So they got a 1/3 tax cut. At the same time, their income went up 7 for 1 in aggregate. The IRS gives you a little more information. They point out to you that of those 400, 32 of them paid less than 10% as a tax rate in 2012. They paid less in income taxes than was paid in payroll taxes on behalf of my cleaning lady, which is 15+%. Mitt Romney, who actually I think is a fine individual, but he talked about the 47% that paid no tax, but he wasn't talking about payroll taxes. And payroll taxes are more than 25%, or right at 25% of the federal budget. They've become huge. If you look at the period post-World War II, total taxes of the country, I know you love all these figures. I mean, it's a way to just have the audiences go crazy for numbers. If you look at that 70-year period since World War II, total taxes in the United States, federal taxes, have run about 18% of GDP. And every now and then they get up to 20, and every now and then they drop down to 15. But if you look at the composition, the corporate income tax has fallen from about 4% of GDP to about 2%. And what's made up the difference? The payroll tax. The payroll tax has gone up as a percentage. So over this period, the wealthy have done very well, and they should do very well. I mean, they're perfectly decent people. They're just following the tax law when they fill out their return and end up 32 of them with a tax rate of less than 10% on incomes that average 300 and some million. But so I do not condemn them in any way. They create jobs. They come up with products you and I like. They're good citizens. But the odds, the game has been stacked in their direction. And that's a primary reason. There are a lot of other reasons, but it's a primary reason why I'm going to be so delighted when Secretary Clinton takes the oath of office. I've known her since 1992, 23 years. She is very, very smart. And there are plenty of other candidates, not too many other candidates, but there's a few candidates. There's a few candidates that are plenty smart too. I mean, I'll give that to them. In fact, one of them tells you about every 5 minutes how smart he is. And incidentally, I went to Wharton too, but I left after 2 years to go to the University of Nebraska. And all of the candidates are extremely hardworking. You have to be. You can't run for president without spending a lot of time on your feet and covering the country. But the difference is that you will not hear. I've listened to all the Republican debates. I mean, I used to love Abbott and Costello and and people like that. I mean, this is really. I'm reliving my youth. I mean, vaudeville was never this good. But you will never hear. I will guarantee you will never hear those figures I just recited about income and about tax rates at a Republican debate. Never. And Hillary, once she's elected, will never forget those. And she will never forget the people who haven't shared the same way. So America should work for those who are willing to work. You should be able, in a country this rich, to take care of a family working a 40-hour week. You shouldn't have to hold down 2 jobs. And Hillary will make sure that those people who are having to work 2 jobs to barely get by will not have that kind of a world for themselves and for their children going forward. It's the America we all believe in. I think the very rich people, most of them believe in it, but they're not going to, it's going their way, and you can't blame them. I want to deliver one small plug to you, and then I'll turn this over to the person you really came to listen to. You people have a chance to do something that can't be done except in the state of Maine, in addition to Nebraska, and which has only been done in recent times in Nebraska. In the 2nd Congressional District of Nebraska in 2008, this congressional district delivered an electoral vote to President Obama. This district will be in play in the next election. I'm not crazy enough to think Nebraska's going to be in play. We're outnumbered. I mean, let's face it. But this district will be in play, and one electoral vote could be important. I've seen scenarios where it could decide the election. So it's really important that well before Election Day and come Election Day, that every one of you talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to your relatives. Hope there's some overlap between these groups. And get them to the polls on Election Day, because the 2nd Congressional District of Nebraska, literally under some circumstances, unlikely, but still, could decide the election. And it can only be done in 2 states, and it hasn't been done in Maine yet, and it won't be done in the other couple of congressional districts in Nebraska, in all likelihood. So go to it on Election Day. And with that, I would like to introduce the next President of the United States.